Executive privilege is a lot like attorney-client privilege. It's supposed to protect the candor that the president and his aides have behind closed doors, much in the same way that a client and their lawyer need to be able to have conversations freely about options without being worried that those conversations could be scrutinized in court. So executive privilege functions a lot like that within the government. And the president does have the ability to waive executive privilege. We saw Joe Biden exercise this a lot, actually, during the January 6th committee's investigation. Biden repeatedly waived executive privilege so that the January 6th committee could get access to documents about January 6th, about events that had unfolded under his predecessor's administration. And also, courts have not, in the past few years, looked favorably on Trump-aligned witnesses trying to claim executive privilege. Steve Bannon tried to claim executive privilege unsuccessfully. He went to jail for ignoring a congressional subpoena. The same happened to Peter Navarro. A judge did not find Navarro's claim of executive privilege persuasive, even though Navarro was actually working in the Trump administration at the time of the events in question, the January 6th riots. And so there is precedent for courts respecting the waiver of executive privilege from the White House. And at the time, a lot of Republican critics were pointing at Democrats and saying, you guys are going to regret setting this precedent of sending former Trump aides to jail over ignoring congressional investigations, which was not typically something the DOJ would prosecute. But now you guys have set this standard. And so prosecution from the Justice Department is certainly on the table, especially when you have in the DC U.S. Attorney's Office a close ally in Jeanine Pirro. She may not end up being the permanent U.S. Attorney, but I think it's very unlikely Trump will put someone who isn't closely aligned with his goals in the DC U.S. Attorney's Office because that office will be so important in prosecuting any of this, whether it's failure to comply with the congressional investigation or the underlying AutoPen stuff itself. That's something the DOJ is obviously interested in looking at. So I think there will be some teeth to this congressional investigation because of the privilege waiver.